Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. All praises are Allah's, Lord of the worlds, and may His peace and blessings be upon our Master, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and His pure Immaculate Ahlul Bayt. Yes, with your permission, I have to give a number of thank yous also. First, I would like to thank the audience for tolerating these last few nights. I know sometimes it got quite difficult to understand, but you were very patient and I appreciate that. I'd also like to thank Maulana Sayyid Abbas Ilya and the committee for giving me this opportunity to share these few days with such brothers and sisters. Also, I want to thank and express my gratitude to the hospitality of the Beg family, Ali Reza Beg's family, for the hospitality they have shown during the last few nights. Also, those who have made such an event possible in relation to its preparation, Sayyid Ali Abidi, Muhammad Abbas and others, I'd like to also thank them. And finally, I'd like to thank Ihsan Mafi for his contribution, which was, I think, always the highlight of every night. And with all the things that he was occupied with this week, I think we owe him a lot also. Okay. We read in the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt that the Imam, the 12th Imam, Imam Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Sharif, he will reappear in Mecca. And the way the traditions describe it is that his back will be behind, lying against the Kaaba, supporting himself against the Kaaba, uttering the words Ana Baqiyatullah wa Baqiyatullah khayrun lakum, that I am the rest of Allah and the rest of Allah is best for you when He reappears. Now, here naturally we have to define what Baqiyatullah means. And that requires a session in itself, and therefore I won't go into that definition tonight. During the last 3 nights, especially the last 2 nights, I had to go through a number of terms and I had to explain them and therefore go through the preliminary definitions in order for tonight's one point to absorb properly and smoothly within you. That's why you have to go through the theoretical principles first before the real practical lessons of Messianism falls in its proper place. And in 4 sessions one can't really do much, but tonight is the practical lesson in relation to Messianism. So the question is, in these traditions, what does this lying against the Kaaba mean? With one's back against the Kaaba and then uttering the words. What is all this about? What secrets do these traditions want to unfold and disclose? Traditions are esoteric interpretations of the Quran. Traditions also have butun and esoteric dimensions. It will be a pity to confine it only to the external prima facie meaning. Is this lying against the Kaaba merely a historical report of what is going to happen one day in the future, and we don't deny it at all. His reappearance one day in the future is a reality, a physical reality. It's no vision, it's no apparition. He will come. But are these traditions that speak of him lying against the Kaaba, back against the Kaaba, is that all it wants to show? Or does it have deeper meanings behind it? Or is it outlining a protocol for us to abide by today? Because if it's only in relation to something which will happen in the future, albeit definitively, what's its practical implications for today? What if the reappearance is in 100,000 years' time? See, we can't just confine all traditions, verses of the Quran to something which will happen in the future. That's putting religion on credit. Qiyamah, it will come in the future. Barzakh, it will happen in the future. Questioning of the angels, it will happen in the future. You've taken all of religion, you've confined it in the future. Well, the youth won't accept that. They say, well, maybe it's all lies. They have to breathe Islam today. They have to see Islam. So when you speak of Qiyamah, it has to be seen in this world. The angels, the questioning has to be seen. The Sirat has to be seen. What use is it just putting it on credit? That's a minimal understanding of Islam. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But we want to ascend. Ta'ala. So what's the protocol? What's the message of these traditions, and what are its implications today? What does it mean? Lying against the Kaaba, back to the Kaaba, and uttering these words. How is that a code for us today? Okay, so first, as a starting point, let's refer to the Quran, chapter 5, verse 97. جعل الله الكعبة البيت الحرام. Allah has assigned the Kaaba, the sacred house, قياما للناس, as a support for the people, as a sustentation for the people. The Kaaba is the support. The Kaaba is that which people have to rely upon and lie against. And it's a support for all. Now, the traditions demonstrate that the 12th Imam appears at such a place which is qiyaman linnas, a support for all people. And he uprises there as the qa'im. Where? At the Kaaba, which Allah has assigned as qiyaman linnas. It's the point of qiyam. For who? The qa'im, the upriser. Now why should this be? What's the link? What's the harmony between that tradition and this verse? What's the harmony between the 12th Imam and the Kaaba? What's the harmony? What's the link between the Qiyam for all people and the Qa'im. Here we have to now go to the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, and they're full of codes. Nahnu Ka'batullah wa nahnu Qiblatullah. Oh, now we're getting closer now. We are the Kaaba of Allah. We, the Ahlul Bayt, are the Qibla of Allah. Slowly the link is being made. The Kaaba, now suddenly there are two forms of Kaaba. The physical, which is Qiyaman Linnas, and the spiritual. And that's the Ahlul Bayt, the spiritual Kaabas. In another tradition, the Holy Prophet has said, Ya Ali, Anta bimanzilatil Kaaba. O Ali, your status is that of the Kaaba, is on a par with the Kaaba. How? The tradition continues. Why is Ali Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam on a par with the Kaaba? Why is his status that of the Kaaba? The tradition continues. Yu'ta ilayha wa la ta'ati. They'll come towards it, the Kaaba. But the Kaaba doesn't come towards others. People go towards the Kaaba. The Kaaba doesn't go to you. Now this has a lot of implications in other domains too. Even in relation to Wilayat al-Faqih, this tradition opens up a new dimension. But that's another discussion. Amirul Mu'mineen, Ka'batullah, they go to him. He doesn't come to you. They have to make the first step. Or in another tradition, Innama ana kal Ka'bah. Verily I am like the Kaaba. Amirul Mu'mineen is saying this. It refers to all the Ahlul Bayt. Nahnu Ka'batullah. But in these traditions it's specific to Ali alayhi salam. Ana kal Kaaba. I'm like the Kaaba. Uqsadu wa la aqsud. I will be intended whilst I do not intend. People have to make the intention to go and travel towards Ali alayhi salam. Or in another tradition, Mathalu aliyin kamathali bayt al-haram. The case of Ali is like the case of the sacred house, the Kaaba. The example of Ali is the example of the Kaaba. Why? Yuzaru. He will be visited. Wala yazur. But he doesn't visit. Now, we have two Kaabas therefore. The physical Kaaba and the spiritual Kaaba. Now let's look at, before we continue with that tradition, in relation to the zuhur of the 12th Imam, let's just take a quick time out. And with these two Kaabas, the physical and the spiritual, let's see how they appear. How do these Kaabas appear? In relation to the physical Kaaba, here we have to discuss the concept of consecutive physical qiyamas. Because qiyamah, there's a physical qiyamah and there's a spiritual qiyamah. The spiritual qiyamah starts on death with barzakh and then metaphysical realms succeeding barzakh. That's the spiritual qiyamah, and that's the qiyamah which matters. But there's a physical qiyamah which will delineate and define the end of the cycle of Adam alayhi salam. Now, before the cycle of Adam, whom we are the members of, there were cycles of others, other prophets and imams. Before them too, there were other cycles of people. Cycle after cycle, and these cycles will continue post-eternally. It has no end. They started pre-eternally. It has no beginning. That which segregates and defines, and one cycle, let's say the cycle of Adam, from the previous one is called a physical qiyamah. Then after that physical qiyamah, a new cycle starts. After the cycle of Adam, we'll have a physical qiyamah. Then a new cycle will start. This physical qiyamah, what happens is the earth, the surface area of the earth will be covered by water. The new cycle, which follows many years after, it starts by a section of the surface area of the earth opening up, the dry land opening up. That opening up of the dry land in the cycle of Adam occurred on the 25th of Dhul Qa'dah, Dahwul Ard, the scattering of the surface area of the earth, which many may know it's mustahab to fast on that day. That's the 25th of the 11th month of the lunar calendar, Islamic calendar. Now, in previous cycles, that surface area which appeared first may have been another part of the planet. It's possible. And in the next cycle, the first area of the surface area of the earth which opens up, it may be another area. But in the cycle of Adam alayhi salam, when the whole surface area of the earth was covered in water, that first area which appeared, that first dry land which appeared from that covering of water, that Dahwul Ard, was in Mecca. And that space is where the Kaaba is now situated. The building isn't pivotal, the building of the Kaaba. That space is important. That building may have come and gone many times during history. But the space is important, and that's the Kaaba. In the Quran, chapter 91, verse 6, وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا تَحَاهَا, by the earth and him who spread it. The traditions go even into more detail and discuss that spreading. The Kaaba appeared when, from where? When the earth, the surface area, was all covered in water. Then once upon a time in this cycle, the Kaaba appeared, that dry surface area. And then in our Qiyamah, the physical Qiyamah, which none of us may see, then again that it will be covered again and everyone will pass away. until then the next cycle, new prophets, new imams, and new life. Although marine life doesn't become extinct, they don't die. But terrestrial beings, they do, when it's all covered in water. But with marine life, there is a continuity, but that's another debate altogether. And in the Quran, those signs, وَإِذَا الشَّمْسِ كُوِّرَتْ, when the sun is wound up, وَإِذَا الْبِحَارُ فُجِّرَتْ, when the seas all merge, these are all signs of the physical qiyamah. When water covers that surface area of the earth completely. Although they also do indicate the spiritual qiyamah, but that we have to interpret esoterically. What is the sun? What is the sea? Esoterically. So, with the physical Kaaba, it appears. It appears when the whole surface area was drowned in water. It appears then. That's the physical Kaaba, sign of new life. And Adam was created from earth, according to the majority perspective, the earth of that area, where the first opening arose. Now this covering of the water and this opening up, also in the Quran, has been referred to as ratq and fatq. We do have these. It speaks of the locking up and the opening of the earth. Okay, now that was the physical Kaaba. Now let's speak about the appearance of the spiritual Kaaba. When will he appear? That too, he will appear when the earth, the surface area of the earth where people are living, they too are drowned in water. But they're drowned in injustice at a certain level. And like the physical Kaaba, the spiritual Kaaba will reappear. Now, with the physical Kaaba, it appeared, that surface area, dry land appeared, and it spread by the earth and him who spread it. Before, it was all covered in water, it spread until 20% of the surface area of the earth was now on dry land. Now, how is this spread of the spiritual Kaaba going to take place? It appears where the physical Kaaba appeared. But the question is, what will spread from Mecca with the spiritual Kaaba? Here the answer lies in Ashura. Just have to take another diversion, then we'll come back, both to the first point we start off with and to this one. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He was Ka'batullah also. The tradition says, Nahnu Ka'batullah. And he was ready to bring about an uprising, a qiyam, a revolt, an uprising. The time was set. Now to execute this qiyam, when he was in Mecca, when he was in Medina, when he went beside the grave of the Holy Prophet, when he saw and heard the Holy Prophet speaking with him in a vision, in a tamathul, like the tamathul that we discussed of Dawood, Adam, alayhim as-salam, there the Holy Prophet said, gave him the route that he has to take and where he has to go. The destination was Kufa originally. Where did he go first from Medina though? He wanted to carry out a qiyam. For this qiyam, he went to the place where is qiyaman linnas, the support for all people. He went to Mecca. This qiyam, to be the qa'im at that time, you have to go to where the qiyaman linnas is. He first went to Mecca. Whoever wants to accomplish the zuhur, whoever wants to be, not only himself be a manifestation of Allah's attributes, but to permeate Allah's attributes in society, to permeate truth in society, they first have to do a qiyam. They have to uprise. This qiyam, where does it occur? It has to occur in Mecca. Qiyaman linnas. One must lie against the Kaaba before speaking and spreading the truth through society. Imam Hussein went to Mecca. He said, Ana baghiyatullah. He gave the invitation to the people. But he went and gave it in Mecca. And then he said, whoever wants to do qiyam with me and to unite with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have to come and travel with me. He gave this message in Mecca. Those who are with me, they've got to now spread it with me and therefore travel with me. وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا تَحَاهَا, by the earth and him who spread it. That was the physical Kaaba. How is the spread of the spiritual Kaaba going to take place with Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Now, just another diversion from the discussion. Today, in the time of occultation, here too, whoever wants to do a qiyam, this qiyam has to be based in the Kaaba. But it doesn't have to be the physical Kaaba, but it has to be the spiritual Kaaba. It's a prerequisite. Whoever wants to make a qiyam, it has to be based on the Ahlul Bayt. Anything outside that won't succeed and won't be able to permeate truth, at least, in society. And also, there's another meaning of Kaaba. When we say the qiyam has to be made in the Kaaba, although this is just a marginal point, the Kaaba can also refer to the heart. And the verse on the Mi'raj from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, it has been interpreted esoterically by scholars. It's from the heart to the highest place of ascension, Masjid al-Aqsa, the furthest mosque. But it starts from the heart. The qiyam, the uprising, starts with the heart against the satanic army within. In Al-Kafi, which is a book of traditions, very authoritative book and with many authentic traditions, the first chapter speaks about the army of Iblis. Now, it doesn't have to mean Iblis, the external entity, and who has people outside us wanting to fight us. When you look at the 70-odd soldiers of the army of Iblis, they're all inner dispositions. They have to be killed. There's no one outside you. If you kill those vicious attributes, those soldiers of Iblis, the qiyam, you will be successful. If you don't, you will become Iblisi. The Iblis is within. Sometimes in traditions it says that Iblis lies under dirty nails, for example. I mean, if you check under your nails, you don't find anything. It indicates pollution, dirt. This Iblis and the army of Iblis, they're all states of the soul. If you predominate, there'll be no Iblis. If you don't, Iblis will conquer over you. But it's all in your hands. It's all... The embodiment is a result of your own actions. It's not outside, it's all within. Okay, so Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, whoever wants to do qiyam with me, they have to come and travel with me. He wants to do a qiyam. This qiyam will entail fighting against oppression. Not only of oppression of the self, but also oppression in society, which is the major focus here for now. Fighting against oppression, it'll entail bloodshed, both spiritual bloodshed, but here we're focusing on that physical bloodshed. And Mecca is not the place for bloodshed. So he left Mecca. In the same way that the physical Kaaba spread, he spread out of Mecca. So one must lie against the Kaaba before spreading justice through society. Spreading justice means spreading Allah's attributes in society, making society more Allah-like. Allah-ness has to predominate throughout society. But where does one go? Where do Ka'bas travel? The answer that we get in Ashura is wherever the oppressors are, wherever the forces of global arrogance reside. Now let's go back to the spiritual Kaaba, the 12th Imam, when he will appear back against the Kaaba, Ana Baghiyatullah, and then he will travel outwards. Now we can appreciate where he will go. Now let's just take it from another angle, because that still is the external side of the story. It will happen one day. Although it has some lessons to take for those who want to do a qiyam, it also does indicate that searching for the qiyam is necessary even today. But let's just now go and take another angle. We've said that the story of the Imams, the story of the Prophets, therefore the story of the Mahdi, is the story of the soul. It doesn't have to be confined to a biographical or historical discussion. And we discussed that he today is the intermediary between Allah and the people. Now, if you understood last night's discussion or the night before on being an intermediary, the lesson today should fall in and you should absorb it smoothly. So he is the nurturer today, the 12th Imam, from moment to moment. He is the Rabb. You know those traditions on Man arafa nafsa arafa rabba? The Rabb here, with the help of other traditions that say Man arafa nafsa arafa waliyah, it indicates that the Rabb also, one meaning of the tradition, whoever gets to know oneself will get to know one's wali, the wali of the time, the 12th Imam. He's the nurturer, moment to moment. He's the complete manifestation of Allah's rububiyyah today. The more actions, the more of your actions that accord with the 12th Imam, with the divine protocols brought down from Allah, the more your actions accord with it. Don't forget, La yuzaru wa la yazur. They won't be visited. They will be visited. They won't visit. You have to go towards them. Your actions have to be on a par with the divine protocol. Remember the tradition. An-nadaru ila wajh Ali ibadatun. Seeing towards the face of Ali is ibadah. We went through that tradition. We explained what it meant. Having a vision of Amirul Mu'mineen is ibadah, not the physical Amirul Mu'mineen. That won't benefit you. But it says, An-nadaru, seeing ila, towards the face. You have to travel. Yuzaru, they'll be visited. Wala yazur, they don't come. You have to go. Oh Mahdi, you come. That's not strictly correct. You have to go to Mahdi. The more your actions are on a par with the divine protocols brought from Allah, you're traveling towards them to make that happen, to the same proportion the Mahdi will reappear before you, the Zuhur. Now this has to be explained. And it should be easy to understand now. So what the claim is this, that the more your actions are on a par with that divine protocol, to the same proportion that you move in that direction, to the same proportion you will undergo and experience the zuhur, the reappearance of the Mahdi. He will reappear before you. Now, this has to be opened up. What is the nature of this reappearance? Well, many of you may have ascertained the fact by now that it's not a physical reappearance here. This too is in the realm of tamathulat, in the realm of visions, apparitions. In the same way that an-nadaru ila wajh Ali was ibadah, that you, as a result of your spiritual elevation, you received the vision of Ali, that barzakhi apparition of Amirul Mu'minin appeared before you and guided you. The same applies here. Remember the verse, فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا, where Archangel Gabriel appeared before her, Lady Maryam alayhi salam, in a certain form with a certain message. That apparition was in unity with Maryam alayhi salam. It was a product of Maryam's elevation towards Allah, Maryam's actions being on a par with the divine protocols. She prepared the groundwork and she received Jibreel. Now, the 12th Imam is higher in status than Jibreel. You can prepare the ground for the Mahdi to have a tamathul before you, that barzakhi vision. That is the zuhur. That will be spiritually elevating. That will spiritually build you. Not that which will happen maybe in 100 years' time, and even if it happens right now, it's going to be a physical one. Is that going to benefit you? Just seeing the 12th Imam now, do you think it's going to... If you're a thief, you're still going to be a thief. If you're impure, you're still going to be impure if he comes. Don't flatter yourselves. Imamat is a fitri issue. Why do you think the traditions say that Most of the scholars will be deviated. They won't accept the Mahdi. But the scholars, they know all the signs. They've studied imamology all their lives. They'll reject the Mahdi. And then a tribe from Rome, they will suddenly accept the Mahdi. Why? It's a question of fitrah. Of course you don't accept the Imam just because of a few signs written in a book. Well, what do you take religion as? Your fitrah, to the extent that it's pure, you'll accept the Imam. But anyway, if he comes even tomorrow, which we hope he does, but that hope has to be based on a proper scaffolding you've built for yourself, not a pseudo-hope. Otherwise, if you keep on hoping he comes, and if he does come, it won't benefit you. You're going to be the same person. Are you satisfied with who you are now? There's zuhur. There's a physical zuhur. There's no denying it. It's a reality. It's going to be physical. There's no esoteric thing about it, but there is an esoteric zuhur. That esoteric zuhur is spiritually building. Especially if you acquire it. But your actions have to be on a par with the divine protocol. And after this, assuming the Mahdi, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajah sharif, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad, assuming once he manifests before you to X degree, the degrees of his zuhur and manifesting before you in unity with your soul depends and is proportional to the degree of your actions. But there's a threshold. There is a minimum that you have to acquire. This is not just ideal talking here. These are real things. The fact that we're drowned in the worldly life and say, oh, we'll never have an apparition. Well, you won't have an apparition if you don't make an effort. They won't come. You have to go to them. Nahnu Ka'batullah. Yuzaru wa la yazur. They'll be visited. They don't come. They don't visit. They'll be visited. Now, this manifestation of the Mahdi before you, to whatever degree it may be, now this is quite an important sentence here, that manifestation, the zuhur of the Mahdi before you, to X degree, X being dependent on that level of your actions, to whatever degree it will be, with whatever message he will give in that zuhur, in that apparition, until the next moment of your life, until the next day of your life, until the next year of your life, you shall be in intizar, truly awaiting him for the next apparition. But this intizar, awaiting for him, is real. Not the intizar that we speak of now, of something which will happen maybe in 100,000 years' time. That intizar is minimum. That intizar isn't spirit building. But this intizar, after the first apparition, until the next moment, day or year of your life, is intoxicating. You'll be totally annihilated in awaiting for your Imam. You can't control yourself till the next time. That's why the intizar of the Faraj is the best of actions, not simply awaiting something which will happen in the future. Although some interpretations of awaiting for the Faraj is laying the groundworks, and that's also a possible meaning. But when you lay the groundwork, it requires a spiritual scaffolding for it to be effective. This intizar is important. This is the meaning of intizar. Accord your actions with the divine protocols. Receive the Mahdi to X degree with why message, intizar is intoxicating. You can't handle it anymore. Now it may be a moment-to-moment intizar. It happens to people. It may be a day-to-day. It may be year-to-year. But you're awaiting now the next apparition, the next message. The higher the X degree of that first apparition, it's more difficult to wait. Intizar is difficult. You can't control yourself. And you elevate to see him more and benefit more. Now, the next point is that the Imam is waiting too. What is he waiting for? For who? For what? How? The example they give is like the teacher awaiting one's student to prepare the grounds of receiving knowledge, receiving Allah's grace, receiving knowledge. The teacher's waiting. If this groundwork is not prepared, then we can't be, it doesn't qualify in relation to us that we are waiting if we're not preparing that spiritual scaffolding. The soul must be prepared to receive those visions. To be an awaiter, it's a spiritual function. Otherwise it doesn't qualify. Intizar, awaiting, is a function of the soul. The dead soul is not waiting. However much you shout and cry on Fridays or every day, however much you want to do that, the dead soul can't await. The dead soul doesn't know how to await. It won't even benefit if they do see the physical Imam, let alone if they have a vision. Now, this next point is also important, especially if you understood the concept of the luminous barzakhs. It was for this issue that I wanted to mention and explain that concept. Although many traditions in relation to the Mahdi can be understood if one understands the luminous barzakh. But I want to just refer to one of them here. This is my last point also. That the Imam is not a miserly Imam. He's not hiding away from you. He's a manifestation of Allah's attributes, of Allah's mercy, Allah's dignity, dignifying nature, Allah's generosity, Allah's compassion. Does it make sense that he's hiding away from you? It's as if, he's miserly and, he doesn't want to have contact with you. So what does this concept of غيبة in occultation, what does that mean then? Remember when we spoke about the Imams or Prophets, those attributes that are holy, we don't attribute to them. We attribute it to Allah. They're just reflections of it. On the other side of the scale, we said those errors, weaknesses that have been attributed to the prophets, but they were ma'soom. They're not attributed to the actual prophets. It was attributed to the people. And they're as intermediaries between Allah and the people. They take those weaknesses to Allah to receive the according divine protocol for those people. The Imam is in غيبة. غيبة isn't attributed to the Imam. It's attributed to the status quo of the people. They're dead. They're in occultation. The 12th Imam takes this to Allah. the state of the people who are in occultation. This is a weakness to be in occultation. But it's not attributed to the 12th Imam. It's the people's status quo. He takes it up. With the other prophets, what did we say? He ascends, gets the divine protocol, then brings it back to the people. Brings it back to the people. And that's the zuhur. But he brings it back to the semi-immaterial realms of the souls. فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. And he brings that divine protocol for those who deserve it. Those who ascend. Those who have built that spiritual scaffolding. And he will come to them. That's غيبة. You just prepare it. There's nothing miserly about the 12th Imam. Na'udhu billah. Why should he be in غيبة? We are hiding. We are sleeping. We have to wake up. And naso niyam. People are asleep. إِذَا مَاتُوا انْتَبَهُوا. When they die, they wake up. It's too late. And then we have the prophetic instruction, مُوتُوا قَبْلَ أَن تَمُوتُوا. Die before you die. But die that spiritual death before the physical death. Why? To ascend, to receive messages, to receive the divine protocol from the Mahdi, to receive the zuhur. فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. He will communicate with however many people it takes. He can do it. He's higher than the angels. And he will come and appear in tamathul form with a message. Everyone to their own capacity. And that's the meaning of غيبة. And if we don't wake up, and if we just keep sleeping and fooling ourselves, we're just wasting ourselves and wasting our souls.
لبيك يا مهدي.
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 صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله.